months ago, a friend of mine gave me some great advice. She said, Gillian, you need to start your TEDx off with a story. Everybody loves a good story. This is true. And what I want to look at today is why this is such good advice for TEDx speakers or for all educators. To do that, I need to teach you a new word, per-finker. I'd like to start by telling you a little bit about my grade 6 math teacher. His name was Mr. McKay, and he was a teaching wizard. He evoked our sense of wonder at the mathematical world we lived in, from the spiraling patterns of our thumbprints to the mystery of crop circles. He helped us feel the majesty of math. And we learned about the stories of so many different mathematicians that year. Their stories inspired us. We played with math just like they did. Math mattered to me. I want to share with you one unforgettable moment in that class. It was a class on reciprocals. And here's a very boring definition of reciprocals, a very forgettable definition. If you've forgotten, it's when the top and the bottom number of a fraction switch places. Well, on this particular day, and you have to come with me to a classroom in 1985, there's colorful things on the walls, we all sat in rows, and there was chalkboard at the front. Well, on this particular day, he asked me to come to the front of the class. I was already there, mind you, because I was the smallest kid in the class. But I got up and I turned around to face my classmates. He declared he was going to turn me into a fraction. It's exactly what he did. He taped a 3 to my shoulder and a 4 to my knees, and he put a black belt around my waist. I was 3/4. But then, and I don't advise you do this in 2017, he grabbed me around the waist and he flipped me upside down. I was 4/3. No, I was 1 1/3. I'd never grown so much in one day. The thing is Mr. McKay knew something about me that other teachers did not. He knew that I am a per-finker. Dr. David Kresh coined the term per-finker. He observed that human beings never just think. They perceive and they feel and they think at the same time. They per-fink. Now this is profound because it puts feeling at the core of human meaning-making. Now, David Kresh's observations align with recent research in affective neuroscience that comes from the University of Southern California. Dr. Mary Helen Imordino Yang describes emotion as the mind's rudder. Emotion is at the helm of human meaning-making. So the things we most remember and understand have affected us. And here's the thing. You are per-finkers too. The reason you remember and enjoy stories is because they make you feel feelings. Teachers know the power of engaging emotions, so they do lots of things to engage their students' emotions in the classes they're teaching. They might reveal the heroic qualities in the topics, they might reveal extremes and limits, bizarre features, dramatic tensions. They help students play with theories and ideas and deal with troubling anomalies. These are all activities that tie a learning knot. They tie up students' emotion and imagination with knowledge. And a good knot holds. Effective teaching has the same effect. Dr. Kieran Egan describes effective teaching as storytelling. He says the stories we most enjoy have features in them that are cognitive tools. Cognitive tools help us to think and remember because they tie up emotion with the knowledge. So his work, he describes in detail, theoretical and practical detail, different sets of tools that come along with the body, with oral language, with written language, with theoretical language, with highly reflexive language. These are sets of cognitive tools educators can use in any context, pre-K through graduate school, to engage their students' emotions and imaginations with learning. This cognitive tools approach to teaching is what we call imaginative education. So now I have one more story for you, and this time I am the teacher. It is 2015, and I'm teaching a third-year course on classroom assessment and evaluation at Simon Fraser University. I know my students are per-finkers, so I'm using cognitive tools to engage them. These are 3 that relate to this particular event. First of all, I always begin my planning by seeking the story on the topic. I'm not making something up. I'm not creating a fiction. But I'm looking for the emotional core, like a reporter going down to get the story. I decide to reveal the highly problematic roots of most of our assessment and evaluation practices. And that is, they come out of the desire to predict and control human learning. So we spend time exploring that. But I also have a giant change of context. My class, partway through, will become an educational conference, and my students must engage in a role play. Each one of them draws the name of a different educational theorist, and they must come to class describing, in role, in first person, that particular theorist's ideas on assessment and evaluation. Well, one of my more timid students, let's call her Trina, she drew the name of Elliot Eisner. She'd never heard of him, and she asked if she could, instead of this role play, write a paper on Elliot Eisner. Well, I tried to persuade her that she had lucked out. Elliot Eisner was a pioneer. He had unwavering belief in the power of imagination and the arts to transform learning, and he made huge impact in education in general, but he also challenged and took on the beliefs of evaluation of his day. So I suggested to her, Trina, learn one or two things that he says, come to class and share those in first person. She gave me one of those looks and walked away highly unimpressed. I didn't know if she'd participate. Well, the day of my conference arrived, and I was gobsmacked. First of all, many of my students arrived early. That never happens. Second of all, many had props and costumes. They arrived in role. I had Plato talking to Parker Palmer on my left about grading. I had Damian Cooper, Ken O'Connor, and Maxine Green discussing the pros and cons of assessment of, as, and for learning. The positive energy in the class was palpable, and yet it hadn't even started. But no Trina. I figured, in fact, this was too much for her. Well, I was wrong. As I was about to start the class, cane in hand, wearing a saggy, baggy gray suit and a skinny red tie, in walked Elliot Eisner, and boy, oh boy, did he have a lot to say. So I ran into Trina a few years later, and she is now a teacher. She reminded me of that activity, describing it as one of the most engaging in her teaching program, but also one of the most effective for really internalizing and understanding different educational theories. So in conclusion, we've been told to keep emotion and imagination out of school. The misconception has been that these are distractions for learning, but we know now that these, in fact, are required for learning. So educators, let me offer you some advice. Always start with the story. Always seek to make your teaching story-like. Use cognitive tools to engage your students' emotions with the content you're teaching. Use cognitive tools to unleash the imaginations of the perfinkers that fill your classrooms, because we are all perfinkers. Thank you.